Yeah?
Yeah.
My number 3 is a game called Blue Estate on the PlayStation 4. Have you heard of this?
No, although you did mention it to me the other day, and I looked it up, and it's what's it based on, a comic strip?
A series of comic books, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't heard of, but I had to look into. Anyway, I played it, so I finished it in pretty much one sitting. I was kind of apprehensive because the PR blurb described it as darkly funny, and whenever I read something like that, I'm just like, call it a dark comedy if you want, or say that it's darkly humorous, but the word funny implies success automatically. It's telling me that it's amusing, which I have to say, the game in no shape or form is amusing in the slightest. When you start the game, there's a disclaimer at the very beginning that points out that everyone involved, every character in this game is reprehensible and they're awful and they're not to be confused with heroes of any kind. And it seems like somebody trying to apprehend some kind of an upset, because the first thing that happens is a naked woman parades around a strip pole in leather fetish gear. And I'm pretty sure that literally every female in the game is a stripper. Which, regardless of whether you find it offensive or you find it funny or whatever, it's just fucking boring. It's just incredibly tedious. And actually, the game kind of purports to play around with the tropes of film noir. And at the beginning, the woman in the fetish gear is described as being a femme fatale, but femme fatales don't tend to be dumb strippers. That's completely the exact opposite of what a femme fatale is. But yeah, as you mentioned, this is based on a series of comic books which I'd never heard of. And actually, if you go to the game's official website, there are a few samples, a few pages from some of these books. And I think the game appears to be an accurate representation of them, because it looks really great at times, but the writing is witless and really quite juvenile and completely uninteresting as far as I'm concerned. I shouldn't really judge because I've only looked at a few panels and a few pages from these books, but not particularly inspiring stuff, I have to say. This is a rail shooter. It's basically a light gun game, but you use the PS4 pad's gyroscope. For some reason, is PlayStation Move even compatible with PS4?
I don't know. I mean, I think it is, because that bloody Joust game on Sports Friends that works with Move, but that's out on PS3, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, it seems like a natural fit for the Move wand, but once you get used to the controls, it's actually quite a good scheme, quite a good fit for a light gun game like this. The story is just a load of nonsense. It's narrated by this schlubby, fat private eye guy, and the game is nothing but stereotypes. I mean, most of the time you're fighting Asian villains, and they're either screaming guys with machetes, or they're men in suits and sunglasses shooting, or they're guys in bandanas and sportswear and stuff. The humour is kind of tame and obvious at the same time. I mean, I don't want to invoke the Fast Show character Colin Hunt again, because we did it 2 weeks ago, but if you put Colin Hunt Fast Show into YouTube and watch a clip of Colin Hunt, that is the level of the humour that we're dealing with. It's not funny in the slightest. And, you know, it's stuff like captions come up to introduce bad guys and they'll say so-and-so is a henchman, blah, blah, blah. He's a huge fan of the Hoff, and that passes for a joke. And there's a bit where you stand in Chihuahua pheromones, and throughout the whole rest of the game, dogs just start humping your leg. That sounds amusing. It's not really. You're just permanently getting humped on the leg by dogs. And the other
huge fan of the Hoff.
The Italian-American sort of mobsters that you play as part. You play as a couple of characters, but you're part of the mob basically, and they're all dumb, and sadly the characters that you play as never shut up. So it's just they're always talking to people. The dialogue's inane. Come on, boss, let's sleep in dogs, be bygones. The boss ain't gonna like this one. It's absolute stereotypes, not amusing in the slightest. But anyway, despite all of that stuff, despite how basically, to cut a long story short, this is a property that doesn't deserve a game this decent. And it's actually better than decent in spots. I really rather enjoyed it. It's a slick. I mean, to look at it, if you look at screenshots or footage, it looks like that Rambo game from a few months ago, which was bordered on being okay, but sort of shot itself in the foot later on. The game's very easy. If you do it on normal, it's very easy. As soon as you're about to get shot, there's this decreasing yellow circle, so you're given so much time to kill who you need to kill. And it's all about building your multiplier. So, I mean, if you want a challenge, I'd go on a higher difficulty, but the normal's fine. Reload is left trigger, but it's also a cover button sometimes, because occasionally you can jump into cover. And also enemies can shoot cover away. You know, it's got the standard stuff. You shoot collectibles, you shoot these little badges that turn everything into slow-mo, so you can jump over tables and shoot people in slow motion. And like that Rambo game, there are some really neat ideas. There's these sort of bombs that you see periodically on walls. You shoot them once to arm them, and then shoot them again to detonate them. You can also, there's bits where you have to operate cranks with the touchpad at the same time as shooting and making sure you don't get shot. And then there's bits where it goes bang, the next 4 enemies, you have to shoot them in a specific order. But you know, it's tiny little things, but they're actually really, really, for a light gun game, they're really quite inventive, and they really do work. There's also a sort of melee touchpad. You use the touchpad to pick up health and ammo. You'll see health, and if you're quick enough, if you swipe to the left or the right, you'll grab that. And also this system where if you jump over a table, your hair will cover the screen, so you have to flick up to get rid of your hair out of the way, which is it's not a bad idea. You can slam doors in people's faces and whack people, you know, perform melee attacks. One thing that's odd is the controller needs constant calibration, and that's part and parcel of getting used to the game. You have to hit L1 and it will recenter the because when I started playing it, I was ending up literally, my hands were 90 degrees away from the TV, and I was playing as if I was facing the wall. So you have to keep, once you get understand it, it's weird. It's like it's a PC game and you're recentering a mouse, and it forgot that this isn't a mouse game. So you have to constantly press L1 to bring the target reticule back to the center of the screen. That's really weird. I mean, whether they change that or not, and also once you've calibrated at the beginning, there's nowhere in the menus to go and recalibrate it, so I had to figure that out on my own. If that happens to you, you're liable to find it very, very frustrating. I mean, the game goes on for a little bit too long. It's only about 4.5 hours long. It took me about 4.5 hours. There's a level in the sewers which is so boring, and it goes on for so long, and that's a point at which I can imagine people throwing the towel in. But the levels after that just get better and better and better. I just think it's fantastically entertaining, really, honestly. I mean, I wasn't expecting, because everything that it did in the opening hour just wound me up, and I just thought it was really quite rubbish. But I enjoyed it. I'm probably going to play it more when friends of mine pick it up, because there are leaderboards as well. So yeah, unexpectedly, it's really quite good. I mean, you have to be a fan of shooters, but really surprised.